the fuel nozzle and get ready to fuel up on trends and strategies to grow your travel center business in this episode of The Truck Stops Here, brought to you by NATSO. Now, here are your hosts, Amy Toner and Darren Schulte.
Hello, welcome to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. I'm your host, Amy Toner, and I'm here with my co-host, Darren.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Good. You guys are listening to The Truck Stops Here, NATSO's podcast. Today, we have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Patrik Jacob, who's speaking at our conference in February. There's a lot of disruption happening in the industry. Retail is changing, and it's good, it's bad, and I think Patrik and Darren have a lot of information on that, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we start, Patrik, do you want to tell everybody about you and your background?
Yes. I'm part of the gas retail industry since more than 20 years, and I was holding major positions in the industry down in Europe. My last position was as the leader of the shop business for the Shell network in Germany with more than 2,000 sites. Since then, I helped, the last 10 years, I helped smaller businesses or family-owned businesses to grow their revenues and to develop their businesses locally.
So, Patrik, in the last couple of years, you and I have had the opportunity to grow quite close as we've traveled the United States, the western seaboard, as well as recently the southwest part of Texas and so forth. And so tell us, what kind of major trends do you expect to be affecting the truck stop industry long term?
Okay. When I was traveling through the US and seeing all the different sites, I got aware that the major trends that we are talking about since a while in our industry are already hitting the ground. So we could observe when we were traveling that some of the big sit-down restaurants, for example, were built for much bigger audiences than they are seeing today. So some of them were only operational at half of the size they were built. And talking to the owners, they told us that they were in full swing 10 years ago or so. So there are trends already going on, and we all know, and I know NATSO discusses all the changes, which is about the different style of trucking, Pony Express mode, so that the long haul trucking disappears gradually. And that's what we can see. So there are less stops, the stops are shorter, and all the different offers that were designed for a different era of truck stops are now suffering.
Patrik, so did you see some similarities to what's taking place in Europe in the interstate locations and travel stores and convenience store world that you saw almost beginning to take place or are taking place in the United States?
Yes, the distances in Europe are a little bit shorter, but still the overall trend is the same. So, for example, that there are more smaller trucks on the road, and for example, the big trucks are not allowed to enter the cities anymore, and all these effects are similar to the US. What we can see.
Do you see that here, Darren, where big trucks aren't allowed in areas?
Well, certainly in certain cities, I've at least seen posted where they said, trucks can't drive into the city at a certain time.
Okay.
Or like in the city of El Paso, just an example, during certain hours, trucks are only confined to go through one lane through the city.
Okay.
Which, interesting enough, you find trucks now skirting the city where some of the travel centers are and actually going around the city because of the congestion, and they don't want to be confined to just one single lane through the city.
Because, certainly in D.C., there are areas where trucks can't go, but I think it's more of a security issue.
Yeah, I believe like in New York City, we're seeing that. In some of the other places, again, trucks are limited, again, what times they can make deliveries. And again, I'm speaking a little bit off the cuff here, but I believe it's security plus congestion issues. So,
okay.
And in Europe, there might be other reasons for it, like noise or air pollution. But the reasons may differ. The effect is the same.
Exactly.
So that we see less heavy trucks entering the cities, and together with the technology that comes along in combining truckloads or splitting it before it hits the road. So we see more cross-docking and cross-loading from big trucks to small trucks, and all these things can be arranged much easier than years before. So that all supports that move that we are describing.
Cross-docking.
So, well, essentially in the warehouse world, for example, you would have a truck make a delivery to a distribution center, and then literally from there it gets split up to maybe 4 or 5 different trucks, maybe smaller, literally from one big truck to a small truck. So it's literally going across the dock, for better words. So if you can imagine a distribution house, maybe the big trucks pull into, let's call it the east side of the building, they unload, and then out the west side of the building is smaller trucks or other trucks. It's literally from moving product from one dock to another dock.
Okay.
And I might add, in a lot of cases now, the load of the big truck is already pre-commissioned. That means that they don't have to commission the goods and to rearrange them to other pallets or to other dollies or whatever they use. So it's already pre-commissioned on the big truck. So there is basically no time gap between arriving of the big truck and sending out the small truck. So they just pull it from one truck to the other.
Yeah, Patrick, spot on. Just recently at where I live at my house, UPS was delivering with electric golf carts with trailers on the back. Yeah, it was amazing to see. And so walking out there and taking pictures and frightening the UPS person, I asked the question, what's happening here? And they explained it just as Patrick just referenced. They were bringing in one giant truck, and it was already, as he called it, pre-commissioned. Everything was separated and set, ready to go. And then they just unloaded into these small golf carts. So rather than having 8 or 9 UPS trucks running around our community, it was 8 or 9 people coming all together in one time in a van, as an example, and driving these little golf carts around. It was absolutely fascinating to see.
Yeah. Did you ask them how long they've been doing it?
I did not. Yeah. I just asked, is this something new? And they were like, well, not really. So they must have been doing it for a while. Just the first time I noticed it.
Interesting. So. One thing I know you're going to talk about at the conference, Patrick, is competition and how it's coming from unlikely sources. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah. There are different angles of, let's say, attack to our business. Yeah. So there are some obvious ones, like we are talking about less fuel consumption of the big trucks and the smaller trucks and other things. But there are also less obvious things. Less obvious things is that what I saw in the US, that a lot of convenience stores adding truck lanes, more and more truck lanes and diesel pumps to their sites. So suddenly truck drivers are welcome, let's say, to the industry next to us, which is the convenience store industry. I think that's the first step. Second step is that, for example, when we talk about the needs of the trucker for refueling themselves, so for eating and drinking, more and more offers are also available for them. We see when we analyze the waste paper baskets on truck parking places that there are more and more bags of QSRs and other restaurants, and some of them are tagged with the Grubhubs and DoorDash of this world. So that means that the internet technology makes food offers from wherever also available to them now, which seemingly is a big threat for the brick and mortar restaurants.
Those are fantastic observations. Anything else? Maybe one or two more subtle ones, like we have had the opportunity to see Buc-ee's, as you know, and they consider themselves a travel center, of course, and do not allow truck parking. But as we've witnessed, truck drivers have parked in other lots and then obviously walking across the street to shop and experience a Buc-ee's. And any thoughts about that type of competition? It's both subtle and in our faces all at the same time.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the footprint of a Buc-ee's is subtle. I mean, it's massive. So for everybody who hasn't been there, it's like several football fields of coverage, I would say. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many pumps, uncountable number of pumps. Yes, on the one hand, it seemingly what you said before. So there are truck drivers just jumping over the road to get their products, and they have a very distinct offer, which is basically everything is private label. So they do everything themselves. They do it on the site. Especially the food grab and go, and the offer is also massive and of excellent quality at reasonable prices. So that's really tempting for truck drivers to go there somehow. Although their forecourts don't allow the big semis on their forecourt. That's the one thing, but I think we shouldn't forget that a lot of travel centers and truck stops of our industry have a reasonable share of four-wheelers as customers.
Great point.
Including RVs, and they are able to go there. So what we experienced, we saw in the south when we were traveling between Houston and New Orleans, I guess it was. We saw around Buc-ee's also some sites that were already closed. So it's a big threat. So if your travel center has a reasonable proportion of your revenues generated by four-wheelers, let's say it's 40%, and Buc-ee's attacks half of it or drains half of it out of your customer base, then you might be already close to your break even.
Very good point. So, Patrik, if you were a travel center or a truck stop owner yourself, and you were going to, I'd like to pose this two ways to you. So, one, if you were going to build a travel center, what would your key focus be? And then the second part would be, if you already own a travel center today, and let's say a Buc-ee's or one of the other outstanding operators, Pilot Flying J, TA Petro, Loves, and companies like that, or Quick Trip with a Q, a K, those types of operations, Racetrack, you know them all, right? Sheets, Wawa. Mm-hmm. They decide to build. So again, the question is two-part. One, if you were going to build one, what would be your main focus on? What would you have as your number one focus piece? And then number two, if you're an existing member, so you're an independent operator, single store, what could he or she do, in your opinion, to make some changes? And not necessarily, spending a lot of money, but what are some things they could do immediately just off what you've witnessed?
Okay, when you today try to invest into a new truck stop, I think it's absolutely crucial to look exactly into the site potential. So in the potential in the area around, and to generate something which gives you other attractions or makes you a destination point besides fuels, besides diesel. That's what we can see, that all over the US where I traveled, and Europe it's the same, that your business is much more stable when people come to you for other reasons. What we see is that the reason to stop in the complete Western world, I would say, the reason to stop shifts from fuels first to food first. So it's nothing about converting fuels and diesel customers to shop customers. That was the past. And the new thing is to make them stop because you offer something besides your fuels. And that could be anything. It could be non-food, it could be food, but you have to be exceptionally good in this. It has to be different from your competition. And what I've seen is that especially the smaller businesses, the family businesses and all the local operators and owners, that they have a huge opportunity here towards the big chains, because the big chains are doing their regular stuff. They're doing their concepts and their formats, and they have to multiply them all in the same way. But these local operators, they are free, so they can do something special. And if it's something entertaining at the end, yeah. So that's a big trend. I saw a truck stop operator with Polish roots doing all the Polish food stuff, and it's great. Not only people with Polish roots go there. There are more people. Or I was reading at the NATSO blog an example with a truck stop operator which does a perfect bakery thing, also a massive offer in his stores, and the people line up for the excellent bread and the muffins and whatever they have, and because they stop there, they also fuel up. So these are the stories. So it needs some very attractive things, and the second thing is, which already answers your second question, is about to do a real, instead of doing a truck and car-centered business, doing a customer-oriented business. So what strikes me a lot, and I have to say not in a positive way, when I see sometimes the back doors of these truck stops, how they are not welcoming their trucker. The truckers have to sneak into some very small back doors somewhere traditionally, although they are the majority maybe of the customers, or at least of the revenues. And sometimes it's really, it really strikes me how different the entrances look from the back side and from the front side.
Fantastic point.
Yeah, and I know you did something about rolling out the carpets for your truckers. And I think that's also to invest into these things, basically, to a certain degree. So these are things what you can do immediately, so that the accessibility and the warm welcome for your major customer groups, that can be arranged immediately. Also the cleanliness of the site, what I saw. Although I admit, especially in the south, when stations get flooded 2 times a year, it's quite hard to keep them up on a maintenance level. But still, that's what customers expect today.
Yeah, I really do appreciate and love the fact that you referenced the backside for the travel store industry. So again, as you've referenced and noted, we've written about that as, that's our number one revenue generator for vast majority of our members. And it's striking to see the welcoming of the front side for the four-wheel customer, and then the essentially not so welcoming backside. So a great point and great observation.
So our last question was about customer experience elements, and I think we've sort of covered that, right? Like how important it is to have customer experience that goes beyond just, saying hello and having a clean restroom.
Yeah, would you? That's a good point, Amy. What would you say for if you were going to highlight the most critical pieces for a customer experience success? Is there kind of like a guidebook you follow, or the top 5 or top 1 or 2 things, 3 things that you think are critical for any business, but especially travel centers and truck stops in this modern world to focus on?
I think it's a pyramid. It's a kind of a pyramid of customer needs that have to be covered, and each operator or owner of a truck stop should ask himself how at what level he meets the customer needs in these different levels. So let's start with the most basic level. It's that everything works, everything looks pretty okay, and basically not having a lot of customer complaints. So basically just doing the basics right. And I know that NATSO is issuing a lot of checklists about that to do just the basics right, which sometimes gives you also good opportunities to earn more, and they are all quick fixes. So that's the first thing, because there's nothing in doing fancy stuff on top of basic operations which are not okay.
Great point.
And the next thing is simply what I said before, to analyze your customer segments and to look in the specific needs and in the missions that you are serving at your location. So RV customers stocking up in the season time are on a totally different mission than truckers blocking your fuel lane, jumping out of their cab, running inside just for having a grab-and-go food. And because with the ELDs today, they are still on driving mode and look to get in as fast as they in and out as fast as they can. So that's a totally different thing. And the local customers, which you like to attract with your bakery, they might even to browse around, like we see it on Buc-ee's or something, and to hunt for some special stuff. So look into into the customer segments you are serving today at your site, and make sure that for each of these segments, each of these missions that they have, that you have the right offer in place. And on top of that, you can really then try to differentiate and to find their way. So first thing, what we see is speed is getting more and more essential, as the truckers tend not to stay anymore that long as in the past. So that's one of the things. The other thing is what we were talking all about is this entertainment factor. So the customers in general, are they truckers or four-wheelers or whatever it is, all the customers coming with are general customers. And we see it in the brick and mortar business, like in the shopping malls. They are running into big crisis because internet buying, internet searching is taking a lot of business away. And so what is left over for the presence of brick and mortar business has a lot of things to do with quality contact to the people, so to the staff, and entertainment. So these are the directions to develop, and I will talk about this a little bit in more depth at the session, I have to say, because that might be a little bit too long today.
That's fantastic, and we're looking forward to you speaking.
Awesome. All right. Before we leave, we're going to ask you some fun questions. It's our fast fill segment. These are just wacky questions, Patrik.
Okay.
What is your go-to on-the-road snack?
Reese's peanut butter cups. The small box.
Okay, if you're stuck at a truck stop in a snowstorm, how do you pass the time?
Talking to the stuff.
Fantastic.
Okay, do you like to drive or do you like to ride?
I like to drive because all the others are shitty drivers.
I get it. How do you take your truck stop coffee?
With no coffee. I'm a tea drinker.
Oh, there you go. Okay, and the last one is controversial. Is it a truck stop, a travel center, or a travel plaza?
It's a truck stop.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for coming on our podcast today. Can you tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to work with you?
Oh, yeah. I think my contact details are also with NATSO. So if Darren is around, just ask him because we know each other. The other thing is you find all my details at my website, which is koru-development.de. So Koru is KURO-development.de.
Perfect.
Patrik, we'll look forward to seeing you in Denver.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Looking forward to see you there as well.
Take care and thank you.
The Truck Stops Here was brought to you by NATSO, the association representing truck stops and travel centers. Visit natso.com for more information. The Truck Stops Here is produced by NATSO in collaboration with Human Factor. Producers are Amy Toner and Darren Schulte.